Mild, only dropping to the upper 50s. And then tomorrow, it sets us up for abundant sunshine. Highs reach the mid-80s. It stays the case for Friday as well, nearing 90 degrees. We actually slide to the mid-90s for Saturday. That's the forecast on the mighty 1630 KCJJ. Right now, it's 75 degrees.
And it is Wednesday. It's the noon hour. That means it's time for Senior Talk, which is brought to you by Soul and American Legion and Senior Benefits. And here is your host, Rex Brandstatter.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. This is Rex Brandstatter. Thank you, Tommy. And what a great day it is to be here on planet Earth. Another good thing going. We're all seniors. Well, some of us listening are. Congratulations on making it this far down the trail. Welcome to Senior Talk. Absolutely, for sure. What a beautiful day it is out there. And a great day to get outside. If you're able to do that, go on outside. It's not muggy. It's just a beautiful September day in Iowa. Well, hello and thank to each and every one of you for taking time out of your busy day to join me here on Senior Talk. And to those listening who are not quite seniors, thank you, too, for listening. And you could be in your 20s or your 30s or the 40s. And, yes, those age groups do listen, I've been told, to Senior Talk. And nice to have you aboard. As always, I'll do my very best to bring a lot of ideas every week that might cover important aspects of being or becoming a senior. And we usually have a little time for some history as well. So I do have a couple things up my sleeve today. So pull up a chair, grab a sandwich and a nice cold root beer, and let's see what we can cook up. My name is Rex Brandstatter. I'm a 76-year-old real estate broker who loves to work, meet, talk, and deal with seniors. And I do it all the time, every day. I work with the seniors. I meet them at their house. I meet them at my office. Just met with one this morning at my office, at coffee shop, wherever it might be. It's time for you to talk anything about real estate. Well, give me a call. I offer a senior line, 319-330-5534, 330-5534. And it doesn't have to be the fact that you need to sell your house today or anything like that. But maybe you and your family have decided in the next year or 2 years that you need to have some sort of a plan. Maybe there's some issues with the steps in your house not being conducive to your lifestyle. Maybe you've had some physical issues that no longer really mean you need to live with a house with a great big house with a great big yard, things like that. So if that's the deal, give me a call anytime on my senior line as we did that. So let's see what we can do today. Well, I just think it's a great day to be here on planet Earth, as they would say. And it's such a beautiful day. So whatever you can do, get out and do some things. It's certainly a lot better day than last Saturday, if you're a Hawkeye fan. Chins down on that one. That was a rough day. And the problem is we have to live with it for a year. That's the problem. It's more fun when they have to live with it for a year. So what are we going to do? We had a chance, and we didn't perform to a victory, and God, that's what we have to live with. So be it. All right. Well, we have had some great weather here recently, and I just heard that we need rain. And, a month ago, the farmers were wanting the rain not to come around, and now apparently they need rain of some sort. I don't think they need a gully washer, but that's what we get. So I noticed some corn is starting to turn in color. A lot of fields are turning. A lot of them are really already brown. Bean fields are turning. All of them are already brown. The leaves are gone. So times are changing, folks. The season is upon us. So keep going. It's going to be 90 degrees on Saturday. It'll be nice and warm in Kinnick Stadium Saturday. But kickoff is at 6:30, and the old sun will go over the hill, and it should be pretty darn nice in Kinnick Stadium. So we're looking for a big weekend with Massachusetts, for God's sakes. Oh, well, it is what it is. Well, I was, with this nice weather coming up, I really, really think if you have the opportunity, you should get in the old car and just go for a ride around eastern Iowa. Drive out to West Branch or up through Seoul and up the back way out to Oxford, take the IWV or the Black Diamond and things like that, Orville Yoder Turnpike down to Kelowna. That's kind of fun stuff. That's what the Iowa countryside is worth seeing, and here we live right in the middle of it for sure. So, well, anyhow, I was talking to a guy the other day who appeared to be in his 30s, I'm guessing. And we were talking, and he said, "Oh, are you the radio guy?" I said, "Well, yeah, matter of fact, I am, I guess." He said, "Well, I listen to your radio show." And again, he appeared to be in his 30s. He said, "I listen a lot." And he said, "You sure seem to bring things up that really make you think about things, make you think about your own situation." I said, "Well, that's exactly the goal of Senior Talk. I don't offer any expertise other than in real estate. But it's just kind of a stir the pot type of thing and get you to thinking about how you can help yourself. All right. I said, well, that's exactly what I do. And he said, well, what is a good idea for a younger guy like me in business? And he said, I said, I would report on the next show. So here he is, a younger guy. Remember, I said, I think he'd be in his 30s. Might be late 20s, but I'm just guessing early 30s. And he says, what is a good idea for a younger guy like me in business? And he has a really, really nice business. It's a service-type business, a construction/service-type business. I said, well, here's what I think a younger person should consider. Regardless of where you work or what you do, here are things that you could consider on your road to becoming a self-sufficient and independent senior like we all wanted to be. Because when you get to the senior lifestyle, the thing that is most important in my opinion, this is Rex's opinion, is the stream of income. Okay, so you pick a number. I have $1 million in the bank. I've got $1 million in the bank. Okay, what kind of income do you get from that? Well, at the 3 or 5%, that could throw off anywhere from 30 to 50% a year. Well, that's might be enough to keep you going. I don't know, but that's what that would do. So here's what I thought. I said seniors have one main thing in common, and that is a stream of income is great. I said, as a young guy or a young person, if you're listening today, here is one thing that I think you have that seniors do not have, an opportunity that seniors do not have, and that is called the time value of money. So if you're listening and you're in your 20s, 30s, or 40s, maybe the 50s, but 20s, 30s, 40s, the sooner and quicker that you get started with a savings plan or an investing plan, you've got a lot of years ahead of you for that plan to grow. All right? I'm not going to sit here and say you need to buy this or need to buy that, but you do need to listen to this. You should come up with a plan on your own that is feasible based on some facts you've learned. You should highly consider, meeting with a financial planner, for sure, a certified financial planner, CFP, certified financial planner. You can find them. You can Google them. I was going to say look them up in the phone book. Nobody has a phone book. You can ask your friends if they work with a financial planner, not with their brother-in-law who's thinks he knows everything. Not that kind of investment advice, but a certified licensed financial planner, maybe a CPA. Maybe your attorney can give you a good name. That's what you need to consider. Because while you have the opportunity that seniors don't have, that is supposedly, hopefully, you have some time on your hands. Maybe you're going to work for another 20 or 30 years, and seniors are going to work either retired or they're going to work for part-time somewhere, or maybe full-time, but not as many years as those. The more money you can put away, the longer that money will grow, even if it's just in a CD. Now, a CD offers a senior low volatility, not much exposure. It's going to be there. On the other hand, if you're a younger person, a CD would be maybe not on the top two things, but, could be a part of your investment plan because it's always there, steady Eddie. But maybe if you work with a financial planner, that they may talk mutual funds to you, maybe stock market type of thing like that. Mutual funds are pretty interesting because they invest in all those things that you really don't know anything about. So you can look at performance online. It's really a great opportunity. And so that's what I recommend this guy do. I said, you need to put some of your hard-earned money that you work so hard for, you need to put that money to work for you over the next 20 or 30 or more years. And lo and behold, one day you look into your Roth IRA or your mutual fund, and kaboom, and it's been at it 30 or 40, maybe even 50 years, you have got a sizable nest egg other than just Social Security or 401k. Now, those are fine, too. My question would be, do you really think that in 20 years or 30 years that Social Security will be here? I can't answer that. My best guess is it will be here, but not in the form it is now. It'll be X dollars a month. And will that be enough to make you go forward in retirement? Probably not. So you're going to need some sort, in my opinion, some sort of a supplemental investment plan. And if you're 20s or 30s, boy, have you got a great opportunity. Wow. Isn't that a great thing? When I was in high school, as a matter of fact, the econ teacher, went through all this stuff with me in the mid-1960s with the class. And then one of the things he said that back then, by the way, do they have econ class in high schools now that sit down and talk to kids about investing or the lay of the land with Social Security and investments and savings account? I don't know. I hope they do. So so one of the things he said back then was this. This was about in my 1966 or 65. Was not to count on Social Security being there. Don't count on it. It might be, but who knew back then, 1965. So he said, get a plan B. And he says, as a matter of fact, maybe plan B might become your plan A. So if Social Security is there when you retire, you will have plan A figured out and plan B both. Because along the way, maybe you doubled up whatever your Social Security investment was with your check, then you put the exact same amount in a savings account or a CD or maybe a mutual fund. You got 2 or 3 times, maybe more, than anybody who just sat around waiting for Social Security. Wow. Okay, so that's one way you could do it. These could be self-directed. You could put this together yourself. I really, really think whether you've got these many years, supposedly on ahead of you, you need to sit down and get a plan. Oh, boy, yes. And if your company where you work, matches your deposit into a 401k, you should put in as much as you can until it hurts. So if they match you dollar for dollar, you put in, I'm going to pay period, you put in, pick a number at $100, they're going to put in $100. You just save double what you would have had. Just that easy. When I say easy, it's not because nobody ever has extra money, seems like. But maybe instead of putting into a 401k, which is a mutual fund, by the way, usually, maybe you come up with a mutual fund that you like through a financial planner, and maybe it outperforms that. Wow, isn't that interesting? All right. So maybe you're dealing with IPERs, and they take X dollars out of your check and Social Security. Maybe you could match that up with one of those two, and again have double the amount. That's a real opportunity. And I'm a real estate broker, so the only thing I got involved in over the years was some IRA back then, IRAs and savings accounts and CDs and things like that. Some mutual funds. I don't have the mentality, the pay attention enough to be in the stock market to react to things like that. So that's, I think, wonderful advice. And this, not even advice, it's just a good opinion on what you could do with yourself. So I told that guy, you're a young guy, get out there and get a plan, whatever it might be. If you save $50 a week, $100 a month, $200 a month, whatever it might be, get started and let it grow. Just get going on it. And if you're listening today, you're a grandma and grandpa, you're a senior, and you have adult kids or soon-to-be adult kids, or maybe even you have grandkids, you might want to sit down with them and say, Billy, here you've got 2 kids. Of course, you don't want to interfere with your kids, but a good conversation on maybe some things, experiences you had. Wish you would have done this. Wish you would have done that. Sort of backdoor them on those things. And if you get your grandkids coming over for a weekend, you might say, "Gee whiz, you get a part-time job. Why don't you get involved with saving some money? We'll open up a saving. Have your dad your mom open up a savings account for you, and get religious about it and start dumping money in there. They'll think you're from Mars because they're going to be 16 working at the grocery store." And not going to get their hands on until they're 62 or 65. They'll go, get out of my way. But if they just listen for a minute, they'd be really, really good. So if you want to have a discussion with them at your convenience, the sooner the better, folks. Maybe you could even open an account for them. If they have a Social Security number, you can even an account for them. And even if you put in $2,000 a year for 7 years, if they're in high school now, you just say, I'm going to put in some money for Billy, my grandson. And you put in $2,000 or $2,500 a year, once a year. For 7 years, that will grow into, about $1 million. Wow, pretty strong stuff. Oh, yeah. Whew, good stuff. I think that's really, really good. Maybe advice. I'll call it advice. A senior lady says this, I quit smoking a year ago. I said, good for you. She said, I was convinced to do so by friends, my doctor, and all in all, in the end, by myself. I also then did some math on the expenses of this habit. And wow, just the mathematics of this thing. I now save the money into a special bank account that I opened. So good for her. She quit smoking for her health reasons. That good for her. And then B, the money I'm going to pick a number, $100 a month. I have no idea. She now puts that into a bank account that she's saving instead of buying smoking materials. She's putting in a bank account, and that's when it hit her how much money she was doling out for those things. So, good for her. Number one, she quit smoking. That's number one. But number two, She turned that into an outlay only going into a good investment program. Aha! I like that. A senior man says this: our garage in our 1970 era's house is not insulated. He said the walls inside, and around the outside are just 2x4 studs, and then the outside wall inside it. What can we do? Well, in today's code, the wall in your garage, I'm assuming it's a attached garage, the wall between your house and the garage has to be, I think, at least one layer of 5/8 inch sheetrock. All right, that's 1 hour sheetrock, called 1 hour. It has to be that on any wall that would hook onto your living space and or your house. It has to be a 1 hour firewall, which is 5/8 inch. That is code. At a bare minimum, you need to have that, for God's sake. Car catches on fire, it'll come right into the house if you don't have that firewall. Got to have that going. In today's code, the lid or the ceiling in your garage need to have a 5/8 inch sheetrock. So that creates the fact that it won't vent out through the top. That's called the lid. So that lid, we're going to say 2 sides or at least 3 sides are uninsulated. Well, what you can do is this. You can get spray foam insulation. You can still get the batting. And you could put that in your studs are 16 inches apart. They're 16 inches on center. So you can go to a lumber yard. You can do this yourself. Go to Lowe's or Menards or a lumber yard, any place like that, and buy that insulation. Put it in yourself, and get yourself a staple gun and put it in there. And then you could have a sheetrock company come over and put sheetrock on it and tape it. Now you've got an insulated wall. You would be totally surprised at how nice and warm your garage will stay. And if you put sheetrock on the ceiling, you could have a guy come over and do this at the same time, and then they could put some, spray some insulation up there. Have an insulation company come over and do that. You're going to have a nice toasty garage, and you don't even have to heat it. I have the same situation in my house, and I have a big thermometer out there, and rarely does it get below freezing out there. It just doesn't. It's not heated, and it's attached to the house like everybody else's. So that's really, really good advice. So that's what you could do. That's what you need to do. You get an installation company or a contractor to take a look. I'd call the contractor first, get a couple ideas, and go from there, because contractors, a lot of them will put the insulation in as well, and you might get just as good a job, might save money. You might not. Maybe the installation company got a better mousetrap these days. I don't know. But take a look at that and get on it, because your garage all of a sudden will become nice and warm for you, and you do not have to heat it. All right, good. Good for you, buddy. A senior couple is asking about water drainage, and I'm telling you, folks, water drainage is a pretty important, pretty complicated type of thing, honestly. Great time to get at least 2 opinions from a landscape company. So you have narrowed this down to, it says natural drainage. So you're getting water. Maybe he didn't say this, maybe into the basement. Let's say he's getting water 2 places, into the basement, and then he says at least into the basement, and he said sometimes around the house in the yard. Well, I have never driven by his house, but he could be on the low end of the block. He could have the neighbor's house sitting higher than his, all kinds of things going on. That's why I say it's complicated. So he says it's natural drainage. So I said get 2 opinions from a landscape company. And I mean at least 2, okay, because there's pretty strong opinions on what they do think. It's pretty hard to change and or correct it totally, and it's really, really not that cheap. Landscaping is not that cheap. But having your house, if it's getting into the basement, that is not cheap either if it's going to ruin your house. Because if you let water continually get into your basement, you're going to have a mold problem, you're going to have a dampness problem, which just causes trouble with your mechanicals down there, with your interior air quality, all kinds of things like that. Pretty soon you get in the mold business, you really have some expenses. So I think, number one, you need to get a professional, and in this case 2, come out and give you 2 professional opinions of what the main problem is. Well, you realize that's coming right off the downspout from your neighbor's roof is draining right onto your corner of your lot. You can go to your neighbor and say, Bob, you can't drain onto my property. Matter of fact, he can't. He cannot. Well, by God, it's been like that for 12 years and I'm not changing. Well, You might have opened a can of worms, but if he's wrecking his water is draining onto your property and wrecking your property, now you've got a good reason to go see an attorney. It's a civil matter. Can't call the city. It's a civil matter. But you're the loser. You're the dummy who, if you will, you're the dumbhead who is allowing this to happen. And old Bob doesn't care because it rains and it comes down to your yard. Ha ha ha! Get this taken care of now. Well, we're going to need to come in and grade. We're going to need to put a retaining wall here and put what they call a French drain over here. And the landscaping from the corner of your foundation, your sidewall foundation, out about 6 feet or 3 feet, it all slants towards your house. Very, very common. Your landscaping, your land from your outside of your basement wall, out about 3 to 4 to 5 feet, slants back to your house. Where do you think the water's going to go? The rain's going to go. The water going to go right down towards your foundation and right into your basement. So you've got maybe it's not your neighbor. Maybe you got your own landscaping issue. That's why you call a contractor, a landscaping contractor, come over, get 2 of them, and get a pathway to get that thing fixed. If you don't, you've got a real problem on your hands, ladies and gentlemen. I don't like the problem. We see it all the time. We see lots and lots of issues with water drainage, and people don't seem to pay attention to it because when the guys come out, some guys said they got to do a block wall, open face wall, got to pour a concrete wall. I would really look into that because when you go to sell your house, you're going to have trouble. Well, yeah, we get water every time it rains. It comes off the neighbor's roof. Don't put up with that. A new buyer's not going to put up with that. A new buyer's going to say, I think we'll look at the house down the street. we don't want to deal with water. The number one thing that the people don't want to deal with is water, because water and dampness leads to mold and all kinds of things like I told you about, and that you have to shut off the source. You have to get to the source. Rule number 1 on that, you have to get to the source, whatever the source is. Excuse me, I want you to identify it and fix it. Absolutely. All right. Something going on in Iowa City that's going to cause all kinds of problems for us. And maybe I've talked about it a little bit, but let's talk about it some more because there's not a date on this thing yet, but it's a $30 million project. It's going to replace some bridges in Iowa City on Burlington Street. What? There are two bridges on Burlington Street. All right. There's an eastbound and a westbound. Seems to me that the eastbound, the main bridge, is owned by the city of Iowa City, and the westbound, the west side, which is newer, is owned by the University of Iowa. All right, there's 2 major players right there. I think I'm right on that. The eastbound is owned by, if I recall, the DOT, owned by the state of Iowa, because it's a U.S. highway. Oh, there you go, the state highway. All right. Wow. The dam, which was built in 1906, is owned by the University of Iowa. The eastbound bridge was built in 1915 and restored in 86, is owned by the city of Iowa City. And the westbound bridge is owned by the DOT. There you go. Rex is all wrong, which don't ever tell my wife that admitted I was wrong. Please don't tell her. So the dam was built in 1906, the year of the San Francisco earthquake, by the way. The dam is owned by the University of Iowa. And in that dam, it just looks like a dam. Well, in that tunnel, all kinds of steam tunnels down there. And I was last in there when I was in the Boy Scouts. We got a tour. One of our scouts worked at the university. We got a tour in the steam tunnel. There are guys who go to work and work down in the steam tunnel. Yes, that's a true story. A good friend of mine who worked in the steam tunnels for many, many years. Well, what's going to happen is the transportation planners have determined that there's a problem with the eastbound and westbound, with the traffic and the traffic flow, and I suppose the condition of the bridges, and the dam has seen better days. It was repaired in 1986, built in 06. Iowa City, City of it says it has plans to work with the university and the DOT on the project. All 3 entities were represented recently at a big meeting. All right, the funding resources are $30 million for the project. And in other words, they really don't know where that's coming from. Well, I got a good guess. Someone's going to come out of the property tax in Iowa City, I would guess. Part of the project will include a traffic analysis to determine how many travel lanes the bridges need to have. Bike lanes and pedestrian lanes access will be evaluated, so you're going to bring that into it. And the spiral pedestrian ramp over Riverside Drive and Highway 6 will also be examined. The current ramp, spiral ramp, is not compliant with America's ADA. So they got their work cut out for them here. Wow. Part of the work has already begun. Get this. Here's what they have to do first of all. They had to get divers down into the Iowa River above the dam, apparently. Above the dam, makes sense. And looking for mussels and mollusks, the old biology measure, see what was in there, identifying any endangered species, all right? They also conducted surveys of the area near the dam. Okay, that all makes sense. So they're working on this. Well, think this through. One of the bridges would have to be torn out and recabulated at once. So that would leave us, that'd leave us with the other bridge, two-way traffic. Well, they work on Bridge 1, all right? But the university and the city of Iowa City have been talking about possibility of removing the dam. What? Possibility of removing the dam. And if they did that, why would they do that? Well, it never used to be a dam there before 1906. It was a navigable river. It's still defined as a navigable river, but it does limit the fish that come and go and would like to swim upstream farther, but they can't. So that's a biology type of deal. So ultimately, the future design options and decisions will be made with the four key elements in mind: the future of the dam, what type of bridge should be built, bike and pedestrian crossings, and the potential realignment of Grand Avenue from the intersection of Melrose and South Grand to Highway 1. So they're going to go up on Melrose and realign that from the intersection of Melrose Avenue, and then you go south on Grand Avenue to Highway 1. So you're on Melrose Avenue at Kinnick Stadium, and you're eastbound heading towards downtown. They would realign Grand Avenue from the intersection of Melrose and South Grand Avenue. Wow. Big, huge deal. Huge deal. There's no time frame on this yet, but I would say to you, I'm guessing that this thing would be in the next 3 to 5. They said construction could begin. There you go. Could begin in 28 or 29. So that is 3 to 4. So 3 to 5. Wow. The firm will study the bridges and offer a preliminary design for the replacement. A preferred design is expected to be finalized sometime this year. A preferred design. Now, they would have the design, but they don't have the moolah, is the bottom line here. And then, of course, the feds will be there. And I don't know about the state of Iowa, but the university will have to do something with the dam. Think that through, because that on the east side of the bridge is the university's power plant. And I can't answer these questions because I don't know. How will they continue heating some of the buildings on the west side if they have to use the steam tunnels that are from the east side and they're in the dam? Where will those go? You see how Rex's small mind thinks? These things bother me. How are they going to pull this off? What's going to happen here? How in the heck are they going to do that with all these things going on? And the next question would be, what's wrong with the ones we have now? What's wrong with the ones we have now? I don't know. I don't. Not on every day, and I don't see it every day. Maybe there's increased traffic flow. I'm not an engineer, so I'll leave it to those men and women who are the engineers and know what the heck they're doing. But I'm not going to say I question it. I just go, oh no, can't you put that off for 50 years when maybe you and I, maybe you and I aren't around 30 years from now? Maybe. I said maybe. I'm not throwing you under the bus here. Bite the dust. We don't mean that. So I just think that, wow, what a major project on Burlington Street Day. All right. Well, I've got something up my sleeve here for tomorrow. And here's what I have up my sleeve. I'll bring this up, and I'm going to see what you think of that. The main part of this story is that maybe you were there too. Maybe your dad was there, your mom was there, but my dad was in the Army in World War II, and that shouldn't come as a big shock if you're a baby boomer. Most people's dads or parents, or most of the dads, were in World War II. That's a pretty good statement there. And while he didn't talk a lot about it, he did tell my brother and I things. If asked, he would talk about he was in the Army. He was in an ordnance battalion, which they're job, he said, was to blow everything up, which is what they did. When in doubt, he said, blow it up. and which caused him great consternation later in life. He thought about it. He said all the places, when he was in France, he said it was a beautiful country. He said not so much North Africa where he was first. He said nobody cared what we blew up there, but we got up into France and started blowing things up. He said it's a beautiful country, and we felt bad about it, but we were doing our job. So we'll let him off the hook with that. Obviously, nobody holding that against him or anybody else. If you do, then go to hell. We were doing our thing, protect our freedom. So with that in mind, I read in the paper several times, and tomorrow afternoon, Rex and his lovely wife, Michael, we are going down to Muscatine to see the last fully operational World War II landing ship. All right? It's a USS LST 325, the last fully operational World War II landing ship. Now, those ships are famous for what? If you were in the military, maybe you know. If you're a historian, maybe you know. Those ships are the ships that would pull up to a beachhead. We're going to think, I want you to think Guadalcanal on the South Pacific, Luzon. I want you to think New Guinea. I want you to think the Philippines. I want you to think Normandy. I want you to think North Africa, France. They pull right up to the beach, and the front gates open up, and they drive out jeeps and tanks and men and equipment and stuff like that. Huge, quote, I'm going to say weapon. I'm not so much of a weapon, but in our military supply that let us be a much more functional army, okay? So they'd open the front gates, and out would storm a whole bunch of soldiers. Out would storm soldiers driving jeeps and tanks, and here we are. Here comes the U.S. of A. Right. Well, the last one is going to be down at the Muscatine. I got there yesterday or today. We're going to go down tomorrow. And it's 320 feet long. That's a football field. 320 feet long football field. It costs $20 for adults. So you can do what we did when we were kids trying to get into the Engler Theater, kind of stoop down. Never worked. When we were 12, we looked like we were 14. We had to fill a full boat. Anyhow, $20 to get on, and you get to wander around this ship. I'm sure they'll have personnel there to explain things to you. And it came up the Mississippi from Indiana, I think. Maybe it was here a couple years ago, but not to Muscatine. So that's where it's going to be. So I'm just throwing that out there. If you're as a senior, it's a nice weather. If you're looking for something to do, you can go down to Muscatine. And in my opinion, the preferred back way is to get to West Liberty and go south out of West Liberty. South out of West Liberty, not east. Take south, I don't know, 78 maybe. Get you down, it just turns into 22 that comes over from Nichols. And take that right on in, you'll end up you'll end up right down at the Mississippi River. And then you can see it and go over to get on 2nd Street or get on Mississippi Drive and go there. That's what the Brandstatters are going to do. And I told my wife that. She kind of rolled her eyes and, oh, God, now what are we going to do? So I told her about this. Well, that sounds interesting. Now, maybe she's being nice. I don't know. Maybe she'd rather stay home and do something and just let me go. Probably is true. But in all honesty, I'm making her go. Make a family outing for her. So that's what's going to happen. So then I got thinking about what my dad said. He said, all right. He said, he told me many times, he told my brother many times about LST when they were in Algiers and Tunisia and North Africa for a year and a half. They were there a long time. And he was quite upset with that because when they first got there, the Allies, the United States, we were assigned to the French underneath the command of Charles de Gaulle and the French. And he said every U.S. soldier just rolled their eyes and said, here's what he said. I can't change history. The French don't know diddly squat about fighting a war and stuff like that. So underground, they're good at fighting a war. They don't have a clue. So the United States really, really wanted to get out from underneath the French, and then they were put in underneath the British, and Montgomery would go down there, and then finally Dad said we couldn't stand that anymore, so of course Eisenhower took over, and so that's what happened. Well, as the war progressed, they needed his group needed to get up to France, and so he said they get down there, going to move out on whatever day, 1943, 44, they went up there. They went on an LST. And so we didn't know an LST from anything. He kind of told me what it was. And he said, we'll load everything we can possibly load in there with all our ammunition as much as we can. There are going to be several of these ships there to take them across the ocean to the beach in France. And he said, we're going to be on an LST. And he said, you know what LST stands for? I said, landing craft, which didn't make it sense. Well, close. He said, a long, slow target. So that's what he called an LST, a long, slow target, because he said we sort of had to figure that the Germans were going to dive bomb us with those Messerschmitts. And so we didn't have any defense other than we all had the M1s and the rifles. That's about all we had while we were on the ship. So he said it was going to be pretty dangerous for him. So he was he was pretty worried about that, for sure. Who wouldn't be? So that's another reason I'm going to go down there. I want to go down and see this LST 30 USS LST 35 LST 325 in Muscatine. I'm going to make a good afternoon of it. It's going to be a nice little road trip for us, and we're going to have a good time. And then we're going to go to the Colonel's game tomorrow night. So kind of a big day. Going to put some miles on the car. We're going to have a lot of fun doing it. That's a senior outing, in my opinion. So that's what's going to happen. So I hope you can take advantage of some of these things, because as you know, as seniors, we don't really have any guarantee. Nobody has any guarantee. We sure don't, and we don't know how long we'll be here. When I say how long we'll be here, I mean here. You could be here physically, but not mentally because of some health issues. So. Get on it, folks. Get out there, be active, do whatever it is you can do once you go do it. And plays right into my theory of do all we can while we can, because as you know, too late may come too soon. Too late may come too soon. We were going to do that. Oh, God, now I fell and hurt my leg. I can't walk anymore, blah, blah, blah. That's what needs to happen. So, offer you a senior line to call me at 319-330-5534. And as always, I want to say thank you to all veterans and all those who are serving as we speak to keep this America free and keep guys like Tommy and I with the ability to talk on the radio and say pretty much whatever we want to say without getting our butt kicked for dirty words, which we don't do. So, thanks for listening. Hello to all my veteran friends and all those speaking. Cheer the Hawks on this week for sure. Catch them on a hot day at Kinnick. I'll be there. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. So long.
Looking for a place with a fun, casual atmosphere? Check out the Solon American Legion. Stop in and grab a drink from their wide selection of beers and wines. And